Welcome to MazanderCast,
a Persian podcast about myth, magic, and mosakhiyar. I'm your co-host, Seth.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah. We're glad you're here with us for another episode, so get your tea.
Or your coffee, maybe some snacks while you're at it.
And let the adventure begin.
Previously, on MazanderCast, we learned about Tahmurez.
That's close. Tahmurez.
Tahmurez.
Good job.
The first king of the world. The death of his son, Siamak.
Siamak. We're going to get you into this.
At the hands of a wolf-like demon and the vengeance battle in which Hushang, the son of Siamak, maybe possibly cleaved a demon in half with his own bare hands, or a very good stone axe.
One of the two.
And proceeded to discover fire and how to forge metal, among other things, to help bring his people out of the caveman era.
Hey, not bad. Good job remembering all that, man. So we're going to continue the story now. Do you remember the name of Hushang's son?
I don't.
Okay. His name is Tahmurez.
Tahmurez.
Yes.
Tahmurez.
So, and do you remember how there's that divine, that halo of divinity that's around the kings?
Uh-huh.
So, of course, you know, the first one to have it was Tahmurez, and then Hushang had it, and now that halo of divinity has passed on to Tahmurez. So everything that Tahmurez is going to do from here on out is going to be by the will and the guidance of Ahura Mazda, who was the Zoroastrian god. So continuing on, let's start with king number 3, Tahmurez. So by now, if you remember, Hushang has organize the animals by, okay, these are the ones that you're going to hunt, and these are the ones that you're going to domesticate.
The delicious versus the not delicious.
Delicious versus not delicious versus leave those alone. Those are the wild ones. Just let them
Get
run
away
around.
From that.
Go away
nasty.
from those. We have metal weapons finally, and we have fire. So this is all good, but we have to keep improving and inventing from here on out. So, like, again, these kings are shaping the beginnings of civilization. We're not fully out of the caveman era, but we're getting close to it. So, Tahmurez, just like his father, he has that halo of divinity. So, of course, when you're getting inspiration from God himself, you're going to come up with some very awesome ideas. So, Tahmurez looks at these domesticated animals, and he notices the sheep and the goats, and he's like, we can spin their wool into fibers.
Oh, that looks soft.
Yeah. It's like, that looks soft. I bet if we cut that off, we can do something with it.
It looks a lot softer than cheetah skins.
Yes, indeed. Also, cheetah skins? Yeah, I guess you're right. The cheetah skins will get, that's one kind of clothing. But there's got to be more. We're wanting variety now.
We mentioned in the last time that they wore cheetah skins, I think.
Yes. I think it was leopards.
Some kind of cat skin.
Some kind of cat skin, yeah. I'm sure it extended from there. They're upping fashion. Fashion has to be
invented.
We can't all have the same outfit.
Yeah, we can't all just be wearing panther skins, elephant
or puma skins.
Puma. What's a puma? Stop making stuff up.
One of the things, they mentioned that the sheep's wool I get, but goats were mentioned in the Shahnameh. I have not heard of using goat hair.
I think some goats are fleecy, like sheep.
Maybe so.
Like ram wool, I think, is a thing.
I can see that, yeah, but rams are not goats.
Rams sheep? I don't know.
Rams are sheep.
This isn't a podcast about taxonomy and animals.
And anyways, we're going to assume that in the Shahnameh, they figured out how to take goat's wool and spinning it into fibers. And not only were they making clothes, they also began making rugs around this time. The first Persian rugs.
Rug.
Yeah. He also learned how to train cheetahs and lynxes and hawks and falcons into being animals that kind of help people with the hunt. So.
What?
Yeah.
A trained cheetah?
Yes. And
Like a hunting cheetah?
A hunting cheetah. And I did look this up. This is a legit thing that people would do in the old days. They would train cheetahs to help them with the hunting.
How do you train a cheetah? I can't train a house cat.
Yeah, well, that's a little different. Listen, with enough enthusiasm and the right techniques, you can get it done. So I don't know if you know this about cheetahs. I'm going to go on my cheetah rant because I love cheetahs. They're adorable. But also, when they're in captivity, they have high anxiety. A lot of zoos who have cheetahs will have these programs where they actually pair up the cheetah with a companion animal, a dog. And the dog and the cheetah have very similar personalities, and they get along remarkably well. Fun fact, this has nothing to do with the Shahnameh or Persian mythology in any way, but do yourself a favor, go look up cheetahs and dogs on YouTube. It's the most adorable thing to see this cheetah and this dog run around. But I imagine that was also a common thing back in the day when you were training all these animals. They would probably get along with each other to a certain degree. Lynxes as well. I did not know that lynxes could be trained.
A lynx is like I don't actually know what a lynx is. It's like one of the smaller wildcats, right?
It's a smaller wildcat.
Like a bobcat?
Yes, very, very similar, a little bit fluffier, little bit more fur on them. And of course, hawks and falcons, people are doing that to this day. So those are the ones that helped with hunting. As far as the domesticated animals, you also had hens and roosters. He showed how you can raise them and collect their eggs for food. So here come the omelets.
Ooh.
So this is all well and good. This is great, but this is not what Tahmurez is best known for. He is known by his nickname, the Demon Binder.
Neat.
If you remember, this is the early time in our world where demons and mythological creatures, they're all roaming the earth freely. The king had a vizier. He prayed and he fasted day and night to seek the will of God and to pass his knowledge on to Tahmurez in order to lead him on the right path. So what he came up with after all of this fasting and praying was he learned a lot of powerful spells. And he taught these spells to Tahmurez to help him face the demons. Tahmurez decides to start way at the top of the demon food chain. He faces down Ahriman.
Oh, the guy from the last episode.
Mm-hmm. If you remember, he's pretty much the
Satan.
The Satan. Yeah, it's this religion's version of Satan.
The big man downstairs.
With these powerful spells that he learned, he was able to bind Ahriman, and then he proceeded to sit on top of him.
Wow.
So, yeah, he spent time traveling around the land in this fashion.
Just riding on top of a giant demon?
Yeah, he has the literal devil right under his butt as he's riding around Persia. Like, look at me, look at me.
Look what I can do.
Look what I can do. And I cannot imagine that Ahriman really appreciated that, but I don't think he had much of a say. He was all tied up.
That is some D&D stuff right there.
So, of course, if you saw the leader of your clan or your tribe or what have you tied up in that way and being treated in that way, how would that make you feel?
I'm glad it's not me.
Wow.
I don't know, they're demons. They're not especially loyal.
Well, these are.
Oh.
They got very upset. They're like, how dare you? So they all started rising up and fighting against Tahmurez. But of course, Tahmurez has all of these spells. They really should have saw, okay, if he can take down Ahriman, we should probably back off. But I don't think
have a chance.
We don't have a chance, but they're not very smart. They tried it anyways. And Tahmurez attacked them pretty ferociously, and it escalated into a full-out war. By the time the demons surrendered to Tahmurez, he and his armies had killed 2/3 of their numbers.
Ooh.
There was only 1/3 of the demons left reigning the earth.
That's not a lot.
Not a lot. And they only got away with it because they made a deal with Tahmurez. They told him, okay, hold on. We have knowledge that we're willing to share with you if you will spare us and give us our lives. And Tahmurez said, okay, fine. I'll let you guys live, but you are under my...
dominion.
You're under my dominion now. You have to do as I say.
Do what I say.
You're pretty much our slaves now. So what these demons did, what they taught him was they taught him the art of writing and the art of other languages. So Tahmurez, through these demons ended up learning 30 other languages. This included Arabic, Chinese, Roman, and all sorts.
Oh, I guess they were there too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is not the only kingdom. There's all these other kingdoms all around them. And Tahmurez, of course, doesn't keep this knowledge to himself. He spreads it to everyone throughout his kingdom. So everyone is kind of extending their knowledge and their education, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Also, why did the demons of all people have this knowledge? I don't know.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Like, you know the story about the Tower of Babel and all that, right? From the Bible?
Refresh it for the memory of our viewers.
Well, that's I should mention I'm not an especially religious person. I'm not well versed on everything in the Bible, but the story of the Tower of Babel relates to the creation of all of these different languages in mankind. How there used to be one language, and then something happened at the Tower of Babel that caused the creation of all other languages, and that kind of created discord between all these different nations in the world. And it's more than just like the creation of language. It's the creation of different cultures and ideas, and why people fight and why war exists in the world, because people don't understand each other.
Can't communicate with each other.
Yeah.
That's really interesting that in both of these, language and writing came from some sort of mythical source. And different languages and different writings came from mythical sources.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Like in Norse mythology, you know, Odin is credited with creating poetry.
Oh, yeah, that is true. That's really cool. So, yeah, that is all that we know about Tahmurez. We know about him domesticating more animals, figuring out how to use wool for clothing and rugs, and of course, binding Ahriman and waging this demon war, becoming known as the Demon Binder, learning about all of these different languages, sharing that knowledge with everyone, and then that's where his story ends. He rules for 30 years before passing away, and his son Jamsheed ascended the throne as the fourth king.
30 years? Is that just... I think that's like a normal amount of time, considering most people are like in their 50s when they become king.
Yeah, so I don't know about 50s, but like if you remember, I think Hushang was like 40 years of rule, Kiyomars was 30 years. So it's not how long they lived, it's how long they were rulers.
King for.
Yeah.
What happened to Ahriman through all of this? Is he still being ridden around?
Are you sure you don't want to skip over to talking about Jamsheed? We could talk about...
You seem awfully defensive about this topic.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that he just freed him along with the rest of the demons.
No. Okay, so I had this similar question, and I looked in the Shahnameh, and the Shahnameh did not say a word about what happened to Ahriman through all of this. I did Google it. I'm going to say that there's some interesting tales about what happened to Ahriman and exactly how Tahmurez died if you follow some ancient Avestan stories. However, they are not family friendly. I will not mention them on this podcast. If any readers out there are very curious, just look up Tahmurez and Ahriman, and also maybe look up Jamsheed as well.
And I guess keep your safe search on.
Keep your safe search on. Do not let your children watch or read. And enjoy that story at your own risk. Can we talk about Jamsheed now? Let's talk about Jamsheed.
Okay.
The fourth king.
Let's talk about
Here we go. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good. Everything's looking up Persia because we've had all these amazing kings who have made all these discoveries and all these innovations and really progressed civilization. And so I'm pretty sure that Jamsheed is going to do just as awesome a job. So let's talk about him. His father was very big into war. Of course, as you saw, Tahmurez was really leading into, let's control these demons. There's way too many demons, way too much evil. Let's cut down on that. Jamsheed was not very warlike. He was much more of an intellect. So Instead of laying down the law or waging battles against demons, he was more interested in gaining knowledge and learning more about the world because he wants to learn how to improve it and make it better. So Jamsheed, he also has the halo of divinity. It's kind of like being passed down from father to son at this rate.
Does that ever make it hard to talk to people? Just having your head swirling with divine light?
Hello, everybody, and then just beams of light. They have
not again.
They have not invented sunglasses yet, so they're in trouble. You can't look directly at them.
Jamsheed can look at a sheep and say, I want to wear that, but he can't think of darkened glass.
Shahnameh never mentioned it, so, whatever. Oh, can you imagine trying to go to sleep at night where your partner's head is just glowing?
Whee! Yep.
Okay, honey, this isn't going to work.
Turn it off.
All right, so real talk.
No wonder they
Jamsheed.
never mentioned these guys having wives, but they have plenty of sons.
They have wives. Don't be silly. They have wives. Of course they have wives. How do you think that they can rule properly unless they have someone in the background taking care of all the others, which is usually the wives? Through Jamsheed's pursuit of knowledge, he has found ways to craft armor for people and war horses alike. So before, we were only making weapons. Now Jamsheed's like, hey, what if the body's the weapon? Let's cover ourselves up with metal. That'll protect us a lot better. He improved the art of spinning and weaving. So, of course, his father figured out how to use the wool, but he kind of perfected that art. So he increased the amount of things that you can make from sheep's wool. You can make more different varieties of rugs. You can make more kinds of clothes, so on and so forth. Another big thing that he's known for is he divided people into different classes based off of their professions. So he had a priest class, a warrior class, a farmer class, and an artisan's class. And organizing these people kind of brought a little bit more order to society. He also used the labor of the demons to create great buildings. Yeah, they were...
Like slaves?
They were slaves. It's not
I'm
great.
beginning to feel bad for demons.
Yeah, they used to roam freely and do their own thing, and then Tahmurez came around, killed 2/3 of them,
Decided
enslaved
to,
the last
put them all in
1/3.
his demon binder and...
Yeah, Demon Binder came along, and now Demon Binder's son is telling him to go and make buildings and stuff. Yeah.
Use the demons, son.
Just use the demons, son. Yeah, it's probably it's just not good to enslave them. Just leave them be. Don't have them in your life. But Jamsheed is going to use them, and he had them create these great buildings. And there's a lot of people that say Persepolis was the city that's mentioned here. So Persepolis, as you know, is the ancient capital
Royal
city
capital,
of Persia. It was the royal capital, long time ago. It's the one that Alexander the destroyed.
Alexander the pretty alright.
I don't want to talk about him.
Alexander the not so wonderful.
Not so great. Why did he have to burn it down? For anyone who doesn't know your Persian history, Alexander the...
Alexander Shunara.
That guy from Macedonia who went sweeping through and conquering everything, when he reached the Persian capital of Persepolis, burned it all down. And so we don't have a lot of that city left over as a result of that ransacking and pillaging. So I will never forgive him for that, because we lost a lot of history and culture through that one night.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. But putting that aside, they think that Persepolis might have been the city that everyone's talking about. So, do you remember how in the previous episode I told you that some of the words that we use are actually Greek words?
Mm-hmm.
Persepolis is a Greek word. Prespolis. It's a Greek word for that city. The actual Persian word for that city is Takhte Jamsheed.
Jamsheed.
Yeah, Takhte Jamsheed. Which means,
like city of Jamsheed?
It means the throne of Jamsheed.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So not only is it a city, it's a really big chair. That is a heck of a chair. I don't think any kings have that kind of throne.
It's not a chair. It's, it's the metaphorical throne. Come on. He's reigning over all of it. All of it is his throne. So he creates the city of Persepolis. He discovers how to get jewels out of the rocks by using magic.
This is some weird D&D stuff coming up here.
Is there a D&D spell that lets you get stones and jewels out of rocks?
Kind of. There are lots of weird spells based around stone. I would guess that one way you could do that is through a stone-shaped spell.
Oh, no.
You could just pull the rock out of the stone.
We might have to start writing down all the D&D references we keep coming up with here. So, discovers how to get jewels. He also discovers perfumes, which is nice. He creates medicines, which helps everyone grow, a little bit healthier.
One of these things is not like the other.
He also discovers wine. Woohoo!
One of these things is wine.
One of these things is wine. That's all you need to worry about. He also helps to design the craft of making ships. So he could also sail around the world. I don't think they had very big ships back then until Jamsheed came along and he said, hey, guys.
They had boats. They didn't have ships.
You see how the wood floats in the water? You see how the boat floats in the water? I bet we can do this on a bigger scale. He is doing an amazing job. With all these discoveries and inventions, he's really increasing the wealth of his country. And everyone is really seeing a lighter time, better days. Their health is better. There's fewer demons wreaking havoc across the land. So people are really getting very optimistic. So with all this optimism, Jamsheed organizes and establishes the best holiday ever. He is the one who brought about Nowruz.
Ooh, Nowruz!
You know a little bit about Nowruz, right?
Yeah, we just got done celebrating Nowruz.
We did. At the time of us recording this episode, Nowruz has just finished. So, Jamsheed uses this day to celebrate the wealth of his country. He constructs this big, giant throne. He fills it with all these bright gems, and he has the flying demon slaves carry him up into the sky and hold him high above his subjects, and the sun is like reflecting off of these jewels and shining down on everyone, and it's a very beautiful sight to behold. And everyone celebrates Jamsheed's glory, and he declares everyone stop working for this day and just celebrate. So there were great feasts and good wine and wonderful musicians and incredible dancers, and
it's an all-around good time.
It's an all-around wonderful time. And from that point forward, everyone celebrated this way for Nowruz on that day of the year. So the book I'm reading, it says that Jamsheed ruled for 300 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't we just saying that, like, most of them were in 30s and 40s?
Yep. That's kind of crazy, right?
Huh.
So, like you said, all the other kings had regular lifespans. Tahmurez was reigning for 30 years, Hushang for 40 years, Tahmurez for 30 years. So why is Jamsheed reigning for 3 men's lifespans worth of time?
He did invent medicine.
He did invent medicine, yeah. So, but I don't think any medicine can... medicine and wine is all you need to live past 300 years. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
So
he probably smelled nice too.
He probably smelled fantastic with those. All you need is good perfume, good medicine, and good wine.
Old Zoroastrian proverb.
No, it's not. Don't listen to Seth. That is not a Zoroastrian proverb. Gracious. So, the Shahnameh did not tell us specifically why Jamsheed lived for all this time. I have no idea. Well, I do, because I did some research. So, I found out that there was no sickness during the time that Jamsheed was reigning, and people lived for much longer periods of time while Jamsheed ruled, but he's still the one that lived the longest. So, what a time to be alive. I can live to be 100 at a time when people were probably not making it past 60, if they were lucky. So, it still doesn't make sense. You're living extra long, but that's still not explaining the 300 years time. So I was like, did God show favor to Jamsheed? And he's like, you're doing great, kid. You just live a little bit longer.
Good job.
Good job. You're granted immortal life. But that doesn't make sense. Why didn't he do that for Husheng or Tahmurez, who defeated his enemy and was literally sitting on his enemy? Shouldn't Tahmurez have had this very long lifespan? So I didn't think that was it either. I found out that there is this artifact called Jam-e-Jam. Jam-e-Jam.
What?
Try it. Jam-e-Jam.
Jam-e-Jam. That sounds like a snack food from the 90s.
It's a jam. No, Jam-e-Jam is a 7-ring cup of Jamsheed. So the sources I read said that this is a cup of divinity and immortality. It was filled with a special elixir that would make the drinker immortal, and apparently the cup could help you see all 7 heavens of the universe by looking into it.
Oh, there's 7, huh?
I didn't know there was 7. I guess there's 7 of them, according to this.
Okay, that's some Holy Grail stuff right there.
It does sound a lot like the Holy Grail. So, this cup is good for fortune telling, predicting the future, and of course, immortality. No mention of it in the Shahnameh, but it's still a cool tidbit. So,
That's pretty cool.
some people can go on the quest for the Holy Grail. Some people can go on the quest for the Jam-e-Jam.
Jam-e-Jam. If you need a different holy cup to go look for, this one's pretty cool too.
I wonder how many holy cups there are out there. We got the Holy Grail. We got the Jam-e-Jam.
Too many.
All right, so 300 years of rule. Jamsheed starts kind of getting a big head, and I'm not talking about the halo either. He starts saying things like, "Oh, no other king is like me. I have fashioned the earth to my will, and I should get all the credit. I have done all these wonderful things for people, and they should be thanking me because their lives are so much easier. Y'all should start treating me like your creator." Yeah.
Really big head.
Yeah.
That's probably a big no-no with Olahura Mazda, huh?
Yeah, that's a very big no-no. He's just, he also said, if you don't follow me, you don't honor what I'm doing, then you're evil and your heart belongs with Ahriman and blah, 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 blah. He is setting himself up like he is God, which Ahura Mazda does not like this. And his viziers are starting to get nervous because it's like, Jamshid, you should not be talking about
Don't say that.
Don't say these things.
God can hear you.
So, if you're a king, you are a servant to your people, and you're a servant to God, and to claim otherwise is dishonorable, and you claim you're like a god, that's even worse. So, Ahura Mazda has granted him the halo of divinity, meaning, I am granting you this wisdom, I am granting you this guidance. If you stop thanking him and acknowledging him for that, you're gonna be in big trouble. So, Jamsheed fell into his greed and his power. And over those 300 years, he went from being this benevolent, knowledgeable king searching for new wisdom into this cruel and boastful king. And there was a little bit more injustice and strife, for people.
Evil.
More evil. And as this all began to happen, the divine halo that shone around Jamsheed faded away.
Ooh.
And he realized what he had done, and he tried to repent, but it was too late. A dark day was going to fall upon Persia.
Mm.
And that's where we'll conclude our Shahnameh reading for today.
Okay.
We're going to stop there. And the next time we read about the Shahnameh, you'll get to find out what happened to Persia. But yeah, this kind of makes me sad. This halo of divinity that followed through so many generations of his family, and he's the one who lost it. It's
That's really sad, actually. Is his son gonna have it?
That's a good question. We'll have to find out what will happen next time. So, Now, I know that we said before on our last episode that we would also talk about Nowruz in this episode, but we've decided to cut down on our topics per episode. That way we don't have to rush and try to cram a lot into each episode. So from here on out, we will have some episodes that focus on the Shahnameh and some that focus on other parts of Iranian culture. We're also going to add a new segment where we discuss fan questions as well as new things that we've learned from further research into Persian culture. So we're going to start our questions segment, I suppose. So, Seth, if you will take a look, what are some of the questions that people have asked us?
We were asked, why did the Zoroastrians leave Persia to begin with? And make their way to India, as we kind of stated in the last episode.
Good question. So, as you know, Zoroastrian religion was originally in the Persian region of that part of the world. And another very strong religion was kind of making its comeuppance, Islam. So when Islam made its way into Persia and became the dominant religion, that's when things really started to change culturally there. Now, the Muslims were very kind to monotheistic religions during their conquest. So when they did take over Persia, they were very benevolent towards Christianity and Judaism and Zoroastrianism. They're like, you guys are also worshiping one God. And they basically said, we're all worshiping the same God. We're just worshiping him in different ways. So they allowed everyone to continue their worship, but the religion of Islam itself is not just a religion, it's also a way of life. It's also an established way to run society.
It's a government.
It's a government as well. So with that in mind, regardless of, how you treat other religions, Islam was the one that was held the most power. They had more people in office and other positions of authority. And this caused some strife. So a lot of Zoroastrians, in order to continue living as freely as they were used to, they decided to leave. And it wasn't all of them. I had said in the last episode that the ones who went to India are called the Parsis, and that's true. But the Zoroastrians that remained in Persia and are still there are called the Gabars. And there are still Zoroastrians in Persia. So that's the biggest reason why they left. There wasn't really a persecution. There wasn't, head chopping and whatnot. It was just...
They just wanted to maintain their religious identity without having to be part of the Islam.
Pretty much, yes. That was the biggest reason. So yeah, what's our next question?
Okay. A lot of people kind of wanted to clarify the names of different deities that we discussed.
Right.
In particular, Ahriman's true name.
Yeah, so the words that I am using are the Persian words, but so we'll start with Ahura Mazda, because he's the cool one. The other names that he has, he's also known as Septa Manu, or he's also known as Ormazd. And I could be saying those wrong. Those are not really the language that I'm used to. So if I'm butchering those names, I'm sorry. But all of his names basically are the equivalent of saying Wise Lord or the Lord of Light and Wisdom. So yeah, it's just basically
Holy Spirit. Some
sort of Holy Spirit, yeah. Something else I didn't mention was, remember how I said this is a religion of positivity? Mm-hmm. It's the same with Ahura Mazda or Septamanu or Ormazd. He is a being full of love and not really one to be feared. No, you should direct all of your fear towards Ahriman. And this was the one that everyone was like, no, this is what you call him. So other names for Ahriman is Angra Manu and also Draga. Or Draga.
Ooh.
I don't know how to say those.
That's intense right there.
Some cool names, yeah. And of course, his symbol is darkness. Ahura Mazda is
the
fire and light.
Life and clouds and heaven.
And Ahriman is the dark.
Dark and dirt and
he's so original.
Spooky.
He's so edgy.
Ghosts. Goblins.
Goblins are Ahriman?
Ahriman is a goblin.
Oh my gosh.
I've also seen Ahriman characterized a lot as like a dragon. He also I read somewhere that he can appear to mortals in the form of like a snake.
Ooh.
That's super biblical. Or a lizard, or even as a person.
I want you to keep that in mind for the next time we read the Shahnameh, because you might actually be picking up on some things we're going to see in our next Shahnameh episode. Ooh. Yeah. Ahriman's going to make an appearance, and he might use some of those disguises that you just mentioned. All right. Any other questions?
Let's see here. Oh, okay. We had some questions from folks asking, what do modern day Zoroastrians do with their dead?
Oh.
Like last time we had talked about the large, the tall pyres that reach up into the sky that the corpse will lay on top of.
Mm-hmm, and the scavenging birds will take care of it. Yeah, you can't imagine that a lot of countries would be okay with that form of
burial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these towers, by the way, I forgot to mention their very cool name. It's called the Towers of Silence. So these Towers of Silence are, in general, they're not really allowed to use them anymore. So a lot of modern day Zoroastrians will just follow regular guidelines or Western guidelines for how to get rid of your bodies. However, in India, in Mumbai, the Zoroastrians are still using their Towers of Silence, but there is some problems in recent times because the number of vultures and other scavenging birds are kind of diminishing, and so they're not there to dispose of the bodies, so there's a possibility that they won't be able to do them in India for much longer either.
Just not enough like big scavengers. It's just a body decaying on a large platform.
Yeah, and if you don't have it being taken care of in a matter of time, it can become a problem. So I'm not sure how much longer they're going to be in use, but they are still used in Mumbai, India. So, yeah, there's still some Towers of Silence.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we had one more question, right?
Why do modern-day Persians and Iranians wear the farvahar?
The furuhar.
If they're not Zoroastrian.
Yeah. So, for example, you and I wear the furuhar a lot. I'm actually currently wearing a necklace with the furuhar. You got some bracelets and stuff with it. And we are definitely not Zoroastrian. So, you'll see a lot of Persians with that symbol. And the reason that they're doing it is not because they're Zoroastrian, but it's modern day Persians wear it as a way of honoring their heritage. In a lot of ways, it's become a symbol of ancient Persia as well as a Zoroastrian symbol. So it is still a religious symbol, but it has the secondary symbolism of being ancient Persia and our roots and where we came from.
Yeah.
So a lot of us will wear it very proudly because it is, I am from an ancient culture, not really, I am from an ancient religion.
Yeah, kind of the same way, I guess, as those ancient Greek gods and goddesses kind of are a symbol of Greek cultural identity.
Yeah. It's not really that you follow that religion, but you follow the culture around that religion. So, those are all of the fans' questions, but now I have a question for you, Seth. I have seen you muttering to yourself and turning around and saying, I have learned some things that I want to share with you.
That's what I spend all my day doing, Joe. Muttering.
Of course it is, muttering. No, you have approached me a couple times and you said, I have learned some really cool stuff that I want to share on the next episode. So I want to know, what have you learned?
I was doing some research for the Dungeons & Dragons campaign that you and I play in.
Oh, okay.
The one that I run for you and our friends.
Okay.
And I learned something about an entity in the Forgotten Realms, a dark god known as Asmodeus. Or Asmodeus, however you pronounce it.
Hold on. I know that because I used to read the Redwall series. There was a snake in the very first book called Asmodeus. Very scary snake.
Oh, I don't know about the relation there, but that's interesting you bring up the snake. There's some lore in the setting of the Forgotten Realms regarding Asmodeus. For context, Asmodeus is kind of like the Satan of this world. He's the ruler of hell. He's this humanoid, red-skinned entity who's good at telling lies. And in the lore of the Forgotten Realms, it's believed that Asmodeus had a different name towards the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
Some legends state that he was an angel who fell from the pantheon of the good gods towards the beginning of time.
Well,
but more
Satan.
stories still state that he was the brother of this ancient snake god known as Jazirian, who kind of represented the good and lawful parts of the universe.
So a bit more of a duality of sorts.
Yeah, whereas Asmodeus, or Ahriman as he was known, was his twin. A giant snake that represented more lawful evil aspects. You know, they were both important. They were both kind of connected by their desire for order in the world, but they were opposites in how they viewed good and evil.
One was creation and the other one was ruin.
Yeah, exactly. And it's thought that they actually created the universe together by biting each other's tails and rotating for eternity.
Oh, wow.
Until Ahriman got greedy and wanted to run things his own way. His brother Jazirian refused, and in their struggle, they ended up tearing each other's tails off.
Oh, snap.
Jazirian was a winged serpent and was able to fly back up to Mount Celestia, where he could be with his children, these creatures of celestial energy called the Quaddle. Whereas his brother Ahriman was not so fortunate. He fell hard, and it's thought that the place he landed ended up becoming the Nine Hells.
Oh. And was he actually called Ahriman in the D&D books?
His name is
Wow.
Ahriman.
Oh my gosh.
And the entity that we see as Asmodeus is just kind of an aspect of him. He rests at the bottom of the pit of hell in his own kind of lair, where he's kind of slowly regaining his strength by feeding on the souls of those who never believed in gods.
Okay.
It's all very
The bad
creepy.
words, bad thoughts, and bad deeds. That was really cool. So I'm going to have to I wonder if we can use that in our own D&D campaign in some ways.
Maybe.
So, very cool. Thank you for that input. But I think from there, Seth, we're going to conclude our episode for today.
Next time, we'll discuss the biggest holiday in Persian culture that we just finished celebrating, Nowruz.
I'm so excited. Want to keep up with us? You can follow us on Twitter at MazanderCast. That's MazanderCast. We'll announce the next episode through our Twitter, so spread the word.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on current and future episodes. If there's any topics you'd like to cover or stories you want to share with us, then email us at MazanderCast@gmail.com. Same spelling.
Special thanks to Dr. Lynn for our cover art. Check out more of her work at LorraineLynn.com. That's LorraineLIN.com.
We also want to take time to say thank you to some friends of ours.
They took the time out of their day to review and critique our episodes and to help it get off the ground.
So thank you to Juan,
David,
Laura,
Emily,
Lorraine,
and Tina.
Another person who needs our special thanks is possibly the person who has been encouraging us the most. She inspired us to put our podcast ideas into action when she gifted us our own beautiful Shahnameh.
She's been helping in making sure our information is accurate and our pronunciations are correct. She's been our harshest critic and our biggest cheerleader. We are talking about my mom, Saida.
So thank you, Mom, for all your support.
We love you so much. Khayli mamnoon.
We thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We hope you'll stick around for more in the future.
And as always, we hope you'll have good thoughts
Good words.
and good deeds. Khudafez.